you guys want to start talking, you're welcome to.
It's been a while since I've done a live.
Well, here you are. You're live now.
Oh,
Hey, everybody. We are live with two extraordinary human beings. To my right, in this right corner, is the pugnacious and tiny Christen Markwell of the Forgotten Louisville.
What up, yo?
And across the table, the ever devastatingly handsome and extraordinarily intelligent and fabulous Kevin Hale.
Ladies.
Hey!
We're kind of doing a simulcast here.
That's right.
To a degree. You're live.
I am.
I'm Memorex. For people our age
Works for me.
would know that line. This is technically a shooting from the lip podcast.
Yeah.
I record on Tuesday nights here at Baxter's 942 in the Highlands. This is my home base. So these are my guests tonight. But, they're more than guests. They're just two incredible ladies, Christen, Tara,
AKA Tiny.
Tiny. We're at the.
She is.
You were on before, and you're going to have to say or explain how that name came about. But.
Other than the obvious. She's a tiny. She's precious.
I'm in a booster seat right now.
Good things come in small packages is what I always
Dynamite.
say. Exactly.
So when, with Tara coming on too, she does a live streaming Facebook series. But what is it?
It's called Take It From Tara.
No, but do you call it a podcast? Or
No, it's a LIVEcast.
LIVEcast.
Yes.
Okay.
I have given it the moniker of LIVEcast.
It's
It's coining a phrase, so to speak.
Have you trademarked that yet?
I should.
All right.
really
should.
Take it from Tara.
Take it from Tara.
I should trademark it.
So at the end of this podcast, we're going to see if Kevin took it from Tara.
That's right. You better take it from Tara, baby. That's all I can say. Take it wherever you can
But
get it.
check this out, lady. The reason why I reached out to you to come on the show, I've been wanting you to come on for a while.
Really?
Schedules,
I thought I was just tagging along with my famous counterpart
Yeah, but
here.
I found I think I kind of, I don't know, guilted you into coming on the show because I used the tiny ankle, which obviously
I
worked.
follow wherever she tells me to go.
On a certain night, I don't know, a few weeks ago, well, maybe, I don't know, we're dealing with the polar vortex.
Oh, yeah.
Freaking freezing.
It was.
My bladder, which is the size of a peanut, required me to, I had to get up, use the bathroom. And, like most of us do, we check our phones. So I go on Facebook and I see that you ladies are live, streaming live at 4-ish in the morning. When
That was not my idea.
Okay.
That was her idea.
Okay.
Not really mine either.
with
That doggone coalition for the homeless.
Yes.
the temperature was at single digits. The wind chill was below zeros, and you all are out there checking up on people. And this is all tied into you and your work with Forgotten Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
So, from me to you, welcome. You all are badass ladies. So let's jump in.
All right.
What is Forgotten Louisville about?
Forgotten Louisville is homeless outreach here in Louisville. I started it about 13, 14 years ago. We're a grassroots organization, all volunteers, all donations. Boots on the ground is what I like to call us. We go to people where they are. We like to meet people in their need. So we are checking on individuals that are sleeping out, that are not inside the shelters, making sure that they have something warm to eat, that they have heat for the night, blankets, shelter, if we could provide tents, tarps, sleeping bags, things like that. Just making sure that we are connecting them to resources in the community and being a loud advocacy voice for them in the community as well. Mm-hmm. We have a main serve, which is every single Wednesday night. We meet down on River Road, 1325 River Road. It's the yellow lot. It's the U of L Rowing Club. And volunteers come and pop their trunks and bring items to donate to those that are experiencing homelessness in our city. We have a meal that is provided by a group each week for that serve. And then from there, we divide up into about 4 different, what we call street teams, and we canvass the entire city So we're in the East End, South End, West End, downtown Louisville, just scouring the city looking for individuals that are sleeping out and making sure that they're okay for the night.
North End too. Why is there not a North End?
Because the river is the north end.
Yeah.
I guess technically, I guess you're right.
Yeah, everything
But
north of the bank is north. So.
But north of south is really up to the river, right? So
I really don't.
Drinking
I don't know. I don't even know how to use a compass.
This is kind of stuff that noodles in my head.
Yeah, whenever there's a river boundary, that's the north.
That is okay.
Yeah, west end,
right,
east end,
all right.
south end. Yeah.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
I just made it up.
Well, it sounds good though. Tara,
Yes, sir.
what brings you? What connects you with Tiny?
I reached out to a couple of friends who knew about the homeless outreaches in Louisville several years ago because I was fascinated by the work that these amazing unpaid, I can't even describe them as volunteers because they're so much more than volunteers. These are unpaid patriots, for the cause of homelessness. And so somebody said, you need to talk to Tiny. And I think the first time we might have met, I met you and Todd over at Zanzibar when Heidi Joy Stenson was having a Warm-Up Louisville to benefit you, to benefit the Forgotten Louisville. And so we met, and of course it was history. I immediately was enthralled with how, this itty-bitty little person could pack such a punch. And I say that only because, there are very few basketball players who have the impact on people that Christen Markwell does. And however she got her name, she is amazing. And a great example of that is the night we were doing the street count, which is what you were alluding to when you were up in the middle of the night, peeing and trying to look at your telephone.
Nature.
Yeah, nature called and you checked it out, and here we were.
For the record, I did not look at it while I was standing up. I waited till I was done.
That's very good.
I can't, most times I can't.
He's a gentleman.
He's
a gentleman. So there was a young lady named Mariah who was in a tent. And
this is that night.
That morning,
or morning,
4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely heartbreaking because she was. Have you heard the expression keening, as in crying to the point of just exhaustion, just the most desperate sounding cry, and that's how I used to describe it. The word keening, just this horrible guttural sound coming out of her, and she was screaming about how awful she felt and how she was depicting herself as a loser. And
so this crying or keening was more emotional than physical.
Horrible.
But it was freaking cold out there.
It was really cold out there, and I mean it was single digits, and the wind chill was well below zero. And this woman sat on something, some piece of
a
something,
milk crate maybe,
that was out there, because there's furniture all over the place. People have the idea that they should bring their furniture to homeless camps and give them a living room suite, which is a really bad idea. But she was sitting on something outside the tent because she didn't want to make her open the tent up. And then eventually you went in to help this young woman with the feelings of inadequacy that she was having, and despair. And I remember her saying so clearly, and it's on my LIVEcast, she said, you are not those things. You are not a user. You are not, a loser. Whatever you said was just so profound, because she said, you are someone who is loved, and you are a human being. And this is what so many people, I think, forget about the people who are living and experiencing homelessness, is that they're human beings.
I think she said, I'm a worthless, homeless drug addict.
Yeah.
And I quickly reminded her that we are not defined by those things.
That's right.
Like, that is not who defines us.
Yeah.
And bottom line, she's a human being. I mean, that's somebody's daughter in that tent. And
do you remember the movie The Elephant Man?
Yeah.
And at one point, after he had been so abused, do you remember that line where he said, I am a human being.
I'm not an animal. Yeah.
I'm not an animal. And she felt like an animal. I know she did. She was trapped in this tent. And when we went inside the tent finally, and I remember this one little thing, people are always saying, don't give the people who are homeless money, they might buy drugs. Don't give the people alcohol, don't give the people. Well, all this girl wanted was a cigarette.
Yeah.
That's all. That was the one thing that was going to make her morning tolerable. And one of the photographers who was tagging along with us from one of the stations had a butt in his jacket, and he gave her the cigarette butt with a lighter, and it was like one of the most profound moments of my life. It truly was, to see the response that she had. And the fact that Tiny was asking questions, but she was also as a nurse, being a counselor, being someone to comfort. I'm in awe of her. I'm in awe of how she works and how she is the captain of the team. You know, she's the coxswain of the rowboat. We talk about the Louisville Boat Club. She's the one sitting up there on the front, telling them to stroke, and people just follow her.
Well, she's the shortest, so they can still be able to look over her. And, you know, like you don't have to say.
It works perfectly.
Exactly.
And she has a huge group of people who support her. You know, Glenda Adkins and you know, Maria Miles and Leslie Hansford and Bethany Green and and Jeff Gill and all of the people with all of the outreaches look to Tiny as the person that they key off of, and that's why she's so amazing. I know you're blushing, but that's okay. You can, because you deserve every single one of these kudos.
Thanks.
Where's all that come from?
I have to give kudos to my parents. They taught me to treat people how I want to be treated, and that really, I'm an empath, and you know, I see goodness in everybody. I can see past their hurt and their pain. Sometimes that's a blessing, and sometimes that's a curse. But it just, you know, the world is so full of hurting and hopeless, and my gosh, we can all offer somebody some hope, you know. I mean, everybody just can, if you just reach down and extend a hand and help somebody up. I always say I'm a fan of the buddy system, and that's really how I like to lead a team, is by example. And, you know, human beings are meant to be with other human beings, and people
We're pack
need
animals.
people. Yeah, I mean, we need people, and sometimes that's why my organization is called the Forgotten Louisville, because I feel like a lot of people in our community, you know, turn a blind eye. They just think that, you know, well, if somebody is homeless, it's because they're a drunk or a junkie, which are words that I hate to use. But there's so much
shiftless, and lazy.
Yeah,
Can't
or
hold a
lazy.
job.
Like I dare someone to walk alongside someone that is homeless, because that is not a lazy person. You know, you're getting up at 6 a.m. to leave a shelter, to walk to wherever you're going to get breakfast, to walk to possibly a day shelter. From that day shelter, you have to walk somewhere to get your lunch. Then you have to walk back to your day shelter until your day shelter closes, and then hope you can make it to an overnight shelter in time to get a bed. You know,
Which is a whole other process in itself, which you really should explain, because it's fascinating how to get a bed in a shelter.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the Coalition for the Homeless has a bed reservation line that you can call, beginning at 10 a.m. Monday through Friday to reserve.
They're located
The Coalition for the Homeless is on the corner of 4th and Ormsby. That's also where the Common Assessment Team office is located, where someone that is experiencing homelessness can go in and have the common assessment done, and that kind of gets the ball rolling or the process started for housing for those that are experiencing homelessness and wanting to find shelter. So with that assessment, what they do, it's a vulnerability assessment. They ask a lot of personal questions, personal history, questions about mental health, physical health, substance use, and you get a score, and based on that score, you know, you kind of we choose the most vulnerable to house first. That office is also located there in the Coalition for the Homeless office on 4th and Ormsby. But the bed reservation line is open, so you can call that line beginning at 10 a.m. and then they will assign you to an overnight shelter.
How many beds are we talking about?
Not nearly enough. I don't remember our total count of emergency shelter beds, but
right. Well, that was
clearly
my
not
segue
enough.
too.
Yeah,
is
there's
not nearly enough. The city. Recently, the city, there was this thing where they put some money out there. One, share with us how much that was, if you can tell us, and what was how did that get
So it was a little over $500,000, and out of that money, so we had met, has some strategic planning with city officials, other service providers in the community, and so out of some of that money, I can tell you my day job, I work for St. John's Center for Homeless Men, which is a day shelter. We got a portion of that money to provide storage for the homeless, because that is a huge need when you're packing your entire life around in bags all day long. We currently don't have a place for people to store their items. So part of that money, St. John's took that project on, and they are in the process of getting storage lockers and containers for the homeless to be able to store their items in. And then also St. John's Center partnered with UP, which is Uniting Partners for Women and Children, which is a day shelter that opened up in July for homeless women and children.
I love this.
And we created an outreach team, which is phenomenal. We kind of just hit the ground running on January 21st with this project. We have a team of about 5 that are out in the community throughout the day, and we have gone into evening shifts as well. We're going into the overnight shelters. We're going into all of the service providers in our community. We're going into the encampments. Just making sure that people are getting connected to services. We're providing transportation for them. We're taking them straight. If they're in a mental health crisis, we are going straight to a mental health provider. If they have a medical issue, we're going straight to a medical provider. If they need an ID, we're going straight to get an ID made. We've encountered numerous things just within the few weeks that we've been out there, and it really is. It was the missing link, I think, because Louisville has a lot of resources for the homeless, but it's what we've done in the past is there's a book that's printed by the Coalition for the Homeless called the Louisville Street Tips. So it'll tell you where every overnight shelter is. It'll tell you where you can get food. It'll tell you where a clothes closet is. But it's very, here's a book. Now find your way.
Right.
So we're like being that missing link, like, okay, what is it that you're needing? We know right where it is. Here's a book with these resources, but how about I take you there? Right. Like I said, I'm a fan of the buddy system, and it's that soft handoff that creates the circle.
That's right.
So we've already been out with the medical outreach team through Phoenix Health Center, which is free healthcare for the homeless. We've had the common assessment team coming out with us. Because when we're in the community, we discover certain pockets of town that maybe is unfamiliar to other outreach organizations. Just this past week, we were in the South End, Central Avenue area, and found a whole pocket of people that are just living in the bandos. And there are 0 services out there. So we were able to load up a bunch of guys, took them down, got their IDs, and one guy was so excited, he got in the car and he's like, I haven't had an ID since 2015. And another guy was like, I can go for a job interview on Monday. The women, when we tell them about the women's shelter, I'm like, it's just a wonderful place to go to take a shower. It's very welcoming and comforting in there. It's a safe space for women and their children to go to during the day. They provide case management services in there. They can, at St. John's Center as well as UP, they can use that as a mailing address. They can use telephones in there. We are helping getting them connected to all of the mental health services and medical services. I've been super excited about the fact that we've been able to scoop people up that want treatment, and we go straight to treatment. Because, you lose people in the moment when they're trying to seek treatment, and it's like, well, we'll go here or go there or go here or make these phone calls, see who takes your insurance, who doesn't, or how much is that going to cost, or whatever. So when you have that advocacy, when you have somebody there with you, kind of pushing the limit, like this person is a human being, you can't turn away just because they're a homeless person. And so those things have been phenomenal.
I want to pop in with 2 things. First of all, I have to acknowledge some of the folks who are watching us today. Maria's with us, Maria Miles. Lisa Fay, Melissa Garriott, Tony Hyatt from the city is watching. Cassie Simons tuned in from Washington, D.C.
DC.
Ashley Candle, Mike Fulkerson, Andy Hall is watching, Jeff Gill just tuned in. Hip Hop
Cares. Shout out
Jeff.
Hip Hop Cares.
Love you, Jeff.
Jeff Gill is part of our outreach team.
I want the hip hop guys on here.
Jeff, you hear it?
He's amazing.
Yeah.
The second thing is you're talking about the whole concept of mental health, and I work at Bridgehaven Mental Health Services as my day job. But one of the things that Tiny and I have talked about, and everyone well knows who works in this outreach, is that homelessness, addiction, and mental health issues are inextricably intertwined. You can't separate them, and that's why it has to be a three-pronged approach. And what Tiny just described to you is a perfect example of what success needs to be in the outreaches, and getting people who are homeless to get treatment for drug addiction or for mental health is huge, because some people say, well, they can't really go into treatment unless they have a place to live. No, that's really not true.
Right.
Because if you have treatment and you've got your mind back and you've got control of your body, you're much more capable of looking for a place to live, and you can subsist in the shelter system or even in a tent city, in a camp, a homeless encampment. And I also want to just call attention to the fact that, and you've probably noticed this, the language is very important. It's person-centered language that we use in both mental health and in homeless advocacy. You say a person experiencing homeless as opposed to a homeless person. You say a person with mental illness as opposed to a mentally ill person. Because it's not, as you just said a few minutes ago, those words do not describe you. So, I have had my own experience with depression. I know Tiny's been going through a lot too in the last few months, and we are not mentally ill, or we are not depressed people. We are people with depression. You are a person with, a Diet Coke, alcoholic, combination, whatever, love. You are a user of fantastic capabilities of technology in order to get your words out over the air. So these are person-centered pieces of language that you really have to appreciate, because it doesn't define people. They're not mentally ill, they're not addicts, and they're not homeless. They are people experiencing all those things.
You touched on something, the safety thing.
Bill Hollander just tuned in too. Hey, Bill.
Councilman Bill Hollander.
Oh, councilman.
Yes.
We are two of his favorites. Well, actually, she is
one of our favorites.
She is his favorite. I am his nightmare. And I adore him.
Very cool. The safety thing.
Yeah.
Is there an issue out there, with of safety of concerned people enduring any type of harm, or in situations where safety is a big deal?
Safety in regards to
physical, just people,
like from a volunteer outreach standpoint,
or just some stranger just wanting to crash in and.
Well, I mean, it is very important to always be aware of your surroundings, for sure. But I have been in the community for a very, very long time, and so I always kind of feel like I'm probably one of the most protected females in Louisville.
Yes.
Like the homeless population has my back; they really do.
Right.
And I think that comes from showing respect. I have mad respect for my brothers and sisters that are out there experiencing homelessness, and they know that, and they know that I'm their voice. So I have never been in a situation where I have felt fearful of doing the work that I do. Times have changed. 10 years ago, doing homeless outreach was very different from doing homeless outreach now. Our community has been, I don't even know the word to use to describe it. The opioid epidemic has really hit us hard.
Overwhelmed.
Meth use is really, really on the rise in our city. Spice use is really, really big amongst those experiencing homelessness, because it's very, very cheap, and I think that they're preyed upon. So those kind of situations kind of change a little bit the way that you do outreach. You do have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to be aware of, and we have to be aware even going to Walmart now. You might step on a needle or something in a parking lot of Walmart or whatever. But we are so, our volunteers and those that I work with during the day, we are all trauma informed. We practice harm reduction techniques. we preach harm reduction. You know, we make sure that everybody is aware of the syringe exchange program. We'll give free rides to the syringe exchange program. You know, we talk to them about safe use, which I know is a touchy subject for some people. But it's not our job to force, you know, recovery on somebody if they're not ready for that. So you want to talk to them about safety in those situations. We want to make sure that they're armed with things like Narcan and that they know how to administer Narcan in case of an overdose.
Well, and I'll add something to that, if you will, Tiny. No one is ever encouraged to go to homeless encampments on their own.
Correct. So don't be watching or listening and think you're going to jump in your car and roll up in a homeless encampment.
Right, and I'll tell you, the first time I was taken to one, it was Glenda and Maurice who took me down to interview Dogman, about whom I wrote the article in The Voice about Dogman and Bish. The first thing that happened when we got to the encampment was Glenda knocked on the imaginary door, so to speak, and said, "Dogman, it's Glenda." And it's just like announcing yourself at someone's home. Right. You don't just walk into somebody's house, and it's open air. But you know, and so that's the other thing. A lot of the volunteers don't go out by themselves. I mean, they go out in pairs. And you talk about the buddy system all the time. The best thing to do for people who want to help, and I know that's one of your questions, how do we help? Is to get in touch with the Forgotten Louisville or any of the other outreaches, and working with them and through them, and not trying to go out and be a hero,
right?
Or dump your stuff at the encampments.
Yes,
because
or
that
hanging
doesn't
your
help.
clothes on.
Oh God.
On the fences down under the viaducts.
So Aaron Atz, Darlene Brumleve, James Langford, all watching Tim Helm. Maria Miles says, "I've been doing outreach for 5 years. I've never felt threatened," and that's because you're awesome. Well, we need to ask him a couple of questions. What do you think? He said we could.
Yeah, we can. Hold that thought. Well, I'm on a little bit of a roll because I want to. Maybe my last question. Then we can.
Then we can turn the tables.
Yeah.
Okay.
I touched on the fact earlier how much the city is doing.
Yeah.
Or not doing. My perception is that my thinking is that the city could do more. And then I'm thinking polar vortex, you know, those cold nights, you know, we're getting ready to get hit with more rain. So that's got to be another issue too.
That's a huge issue. Yep.
Churches,
Speak
hotels. I mean, a hotel. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a hotel. I mean, that's maybe. But you would think a church. You know, you're supposed to be, you know, in the business of caring and providing. Play that card.
Yeah, it's what would Tiny do?
Yeah, but am I wrong or?
You're not wrong.
Okay.
You're not wrong at all.
Why is that not the case? Or why is that the case if they're not?
I think some people are worried about liability, logistics of things. I do know with some of the funding that the city got, St. Stephen's Church did open up. They were attempting to open up some overnight shelter space, and it was beautiful, and they had wonderful accommodations, but then there were some codes and regs issues with all of that. They did end up opening in their Family Life Center. They do open up on White Flag nights to allow families to come in.
What
and then White Flag nights is when it's 35 or below. Okay.
And they're doing a day shelter, right?
And they're doing a day shelter. Yeah. So they have stepped up. You know, I don't really know. I'm a preacher's daughter, so I grew up in the church, and really that's kind of where I got to see love in action. You know, from a really early age, I knew what hunger was, what poverty was. I knew what prostitution was, what addiction was, but I was always taught to love them, to bring them in, to help them. Right. I think that we, as a society, label people. You know, addiction is a sin, addiction is a disease. And so people aren't really sure how to handle that, or they're afraid of that, or maybe they don't even want to talk about that. So they worry about those things. We have a lot of people that have not gone into shelter up until now because they couldn't go in with their partners. And so some churches might feel uneasy about having partners come in that aren't married. and letting them seek shelter for the night. I know Councilwoman Barbara Sexton-Smith has a huge call out to the faith-based community.
Yes, she does.
Asking those
She's
to get
amazing.
involved, to open their doors.
So pets, partners, and possessions, we say.
Yeah.
Which are the three things that prevent people from seeking shelter.
Right.
And now the low barrier shelter concept that Tiny has hugely advocated, and so have all the other outreaches, allows you to bring your partner, bring your pet, and bring your possessions, and they're addressing it by creating the storage at St. John's Center. And our friend Glenda is really pretty much in charge of that, so that people will have a place to put their stuff. They'll be able to bring their pets in, and right now it's kind of a difficult situation because they haven't figured out the logistics of having the pets separated from the people who don't have pets, so it's a little challenging at this time. And then, you know, the partners. I mean, if you're a man and a woman and you're together and you have to go to separate shelters, you're taking away each other's support.
Right.
Just like if you have a pet, you're taking away your companion animal. So, you know, those are the three things that really have to be overcome. And thank God we've got people like Bill Hollander and Barbara Sexton-Smith and the other folks who, you know, and Angela Lee, big advocates for the homeless community, and we appreciate them very much.
Very good.
Now we can ask you a question. What do you want to ask him, Tiny? What do you want to know about Kevin Hale?
What did you want
I think he's a pretty rad dude. I mean, I don't.
I've got some questions.
Well, bring it.
Go ahead.
What got you starting a podcast? What did you need to do as a human being to become an interviewer? What was your curiosity level?
The thing is, not an interviewer.
Yeah.
I love conversation.
Conversation.
I think I'm someone who, for the most part, knows a little bit about a lot of things, and I just want to know more. So what I try to do when I do my shows, my podcast, is, you know, is there a topic, something out there that I want to know more about?
You and I are very similar in that
Then
regard.
I reach out and then we just shoot it. That's the name, shooting from the lip.
I love that.
So, but I've been doing this over 4 years.
What do you do in your spare time?
IT guy. So, you know, in the real world, I have that. This is my little hobby, my love, my escape. Well, not escape from reality, because it is real still. Because I'm dealing with real people and real issues, and I'm at the point where the podcast has allowed me to be some type of a resource to gather people and to kind of pay forward, you know, as I can. So,
Using your powers for good instead of for evil.
for evil,
basically.
yeah. So
Yeah. Well, we can consider ourselves facilitators,
I think, yeah, we have
as I like to say, because we can get people together to do things that you wouldn't expect that they would not necessarily be able to get together unless they had someone in the middle. Catherine Callahan's watching from the Humane Society of the United States. Vicki Petsy is watching. She's an expert on ticks and Lyme disease, if you ever need to know.
Okay.
Seriously, she is. I had the highest number of views on any LIVEcast I've ever done talking to Vicki about ticks for an hour.
Really?
You would not believe the prevalence of Lyme disease. And I know that our homeless population experiences a lot of physical illness from being in the elements, and you know, ticks are a huge concern. And Lyme can cause amazing things. It can cause mental illness. It can cause physical illness that can kill you. I know people who died from Lyme, and who live with Lyme, which is excruciating in many regards.
Do you enjoy the live part?
Oh God, yeah, I love
so,
everything about Lyme, especially people who drop the F-bomb on my show.
Yeah. Well,
Someone did just a few moments ago, but we won't name any names, and it
that's-
wasn't Tiny.
It was. Did I? It was.
It wasn't me, Mom and Dad.
No, it was never ever Tiny. She doesn't even use that word.
I have debated doing live streaming, you know.
It's fun.
Well, the problem is, the last time I kind of did it, the topic, it was a musician, and somehow he talked about a video he was doing that involved porn stars, and it just went
No, you don't
over
want to
the
do
top.
that.
So it was like, you know, I tried to be unfiltered. Well, I am unfiltered, but that's one reason why I record it, so I can, you know, edit.
I don't have
as
time to
necessary.
edit. See, that's
I have
the
a little
thing.
bit of time,
I do
so.
live.
But I don't have to edit a lot. I just make a note that this time I got to take something out of it. But,
See, the name of the show is Take It From Tara.
Yeah.
And I think that implies that whatever it is that I'm saying, it's if I say you should listen to Kevin Hale's Shooting from the Lip, or you should
just-
support the Forgotten Louisville. You can take it from Tara that that's a really good idea.
It's like a seal of approval.
It
kind
is.
of
It's
thing.
like it's just like the Good Housekeeping seal.
You've been in the media for a while. How
Long time.
Yeah.
Longer than she's been alive, pretty much.
And
How old are you?
45.
Close. Yeah, close. Yeah, I think she
No.
was. First grade. You were about first grade when I started
really,
working in media. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm much older than I look.
you look good.
Thanks.
Very
I was fishing for that.
Hook, line, and sinker.
No, but it's so true. You know, I mean, I'm a meteorologist, and I'm a talk show host, and have done a million things nationally and locally.
Did you get the forecast right more times than not?
Well, people always, the big joke about meteorologists is, oh, you have a 50% chance of being right, you know, or you're the only person I know who gets paid for being wrong 50% of the time. You know, those are old jokes. Don't tell them anymore. They're not funny.
Yeah, I mean, at this
Meteorology
point-
is an extremely scientific
Is it?
thing, but
Can't
know,
you
there's-
just pull up Google Earth and look at
Sure,
the,
you can.
and look at the clouds
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
say,
you can.
okay.
Yeah, and then you interpret it and figure out what it means.
It's going to rain.
Hey, look,
It's
when
gonna
you
rain.
can listen to Kevin Harned or John Belsky,
They're some of my
you know,
favorites.
some of those guys,
Yeah.
man, they are just right. I love them. I love the meteorologists in this town, and they have all been fantastic people. I mean, this is a very hard area of the country to predict. You
That's
know, in
true.
Oregon,
Yeah.
you have a great chance of it raining every day. That's where
That's
I grew
true.
up, so that's a pretty easy job for a meteorologist. In Denver, it's probably going to snow, and then the summer's going to be pretty nice. Here, you're every 15 minutes. The joke is, you don't like the weather? Wait 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about a polar vortex that came through, and then we were in t-shirts and shorts the next weekend,
Within
and it's
a
been
few
that.
days, yeah.
No wonder everybody's sick.
Right.
Seriously.
What else?
Well, you know, I would like to address something
Do you?
that's very important to me, and that is, I think that people always say, what can we do? And we just talked about this. What can we do to help? And we can tell you what not to do. We can say don't drop off furniture. We can say please don't hang your clothes that you don't want anymore on the fences under the underpasses, thinking some poor homeless person is going to wear them, because that's not going to happen. It's going to just accumulate, and there's going to be junk, and then the city's going to have to come and suck it up and take it away. So what you can do is you can get in touch with the Forgotten Louisville through their Facebook page or any of the other homeless outreaches, and you can work with them by volunteering and come down to the yellow lot and serve and go with the volunteers to see what it is like to experience homelessness with your own eyes, and then take that back and get the kids in your kids' class to make, you know, care packages, you know, little items like the stuff that you pick up when you're traveling in hotels, small bottles of shampoo, things that people who are experiencing homeless can carry with them. Those are things that people just don't even think about. But
Is it stealing when you take stuff out of the hotel? You know, those little samples?
No.
well, don't take towels or anything. I mean, you're supposed to take the
Okay.
samples.
Just-
God. But then they can tell you what to do. I mean, the people who are experienced in this, it's like you don't just go out and start digging a hole if you want to excavate for a house. You get somebody who knows how to do it. So these guys know how to do homeless outreach.
Right.
Ask for help.
You two being, in my opinion, some alpha.
Hot babes, is that what you're going to say?
That and alpha females.
Yeah.
I want to, if I can digress a little bit, one of the hot topics trending for the last year, 2 years, the whole Me Too movement. I would like to get your all's take on that.
Well, didn't you notice her pink hat?
I
That's the
did.
first thing I thought when I saw you.
Is it?
Oh my God, she's wearing a pink hat.
Yeah,
I won't say that word either.
It's only because they match my shoes.
That's right. Go ahead, stick that foot up here. Tiny, look at that.
Good
Look at those
God.
little cute Vans.
These are not Vans.
Oh no, what are they?
Gazelles.
Sorry,
Gazelles.
Gazelles.
Adidas.
Close.
I'll wear Vans at our next show.
Okay, do that.
Yeah.
That'd be good. What do we think about the Me Too movement?
Yeah.
What do you think about the Me Too movement?
I don't care about me. I care about other people. I mean, for real.
That's a great answer.
Like, I mean,
You're
don't-
probably not the right person to ask that question.
I don't think I
Well,
am.
I don't know that alpha females are good people to ask that question. I think that people who are victims of domestic violence would be great to answer that question, which is how did you get into the situation that you're in, and how did you get out? Because it takes a great deal of strength to get out of an abusive relationship. And when you have been abused, by the President of the United States, or by the janitor, or by a guy that hits you on the street. No matter what, it's the same invasion, and it's the same situation where you feel completely helpless and you are a victim, and you have to get out of that victimness and you have to get back into your own power. And I think that's what the Me Too movement is all about. It's regaining the power that you lost, that someone took from you. And so getting that power back is a huge part of it. And that's one of the things that I think you and I both do, Tiny, is we encourage empowerment of women. Look at what she did with Mariah that morning on the street count. She empowered her. And she said, I'll come back for you. I'm going to continue the street count, but I will come back for you, because she's her sister. And she took her to get, and she had surgery. Didn't she say she had to have that finger that she cut, operated on? So when she says, when Tiny says, I'm going to do something, people know she's going to do it. And being a woman of your word, being a woman of integrity, is something very important to me. People can question me about anything, but please don't question my integrity, or I'll just have to take you out.
Yeah. That's what I always say. My reputation is
fine out.
That's all you got.
So important.
You don't want to know, baby.
But also, you were talking about people that have been through their own struggle and they share that with others. And you can kind of touch on this too, how important it is in the mental health field.
Yes.
And we also see it in the recovery world, peer support specialists, and how important their work is. Those are people with lived experience, either in recovery or mental health recovery. They can kind of talk that language. And so within the services that are provided in our community, whether that's the homeless service providers, mental health providers, addiction and recovery providers, many of the staff is peer support staff because they've had that lived experience. And I think a lot of times, when you feel empowered with your story and you begin to share your story with other people, it's just like a snowball effect, and you can just start seeing, I like to call it seed dropping. I just like to drop seeds all over the place and see what starts to grow.
I am a peer support specialist. When you have lived experience with mental illness, you can be a peer support specialist to people in mental health recovery. And we call it recovery for mental health as well as for addiction recovery. Definitely. And I think that's an absolutely perfect statement that Tiny just made, which is that the people who have walked the walk can talk the talk. And if you haven't been homeless, and if you haven't been addicted, and if you haven't had mental illness, unless you've lived with someone who has it or experienced yourself, you really don't have a complete view of what it's like. You just don't. There's no way to explain what that feels like. There's no way to explain what it feels like to lose your mind. And I did. My depression was so deep, and they call it a major depressive episode for a reason. It was so deep, and my anxiety was so high. You can't sleep all the time because your anxiety is so high that you can't sit still. So what did I do? I smoked, I jiggled, and I talked on the phone. And the thing that I would say to everybody I talked to is, can you help me?
Jiggled.
I jiggled constantly. I was like this. My legs were moving, my feet were hands, my everything. And smoking 2 cigarettes at a time because I had no control over anything but these things. So, in recovery, in addiction recovery, it's the same thing. People who've experienced it, people who've lived with it, people who have been able to be on a level with someone who's experienced it can give the most beneficial help. And that's why some of our greatest advocates in the homeless outreach community, like Maurice, are people who've experienced homelessness themselves and can tell others how they got out of it and into housing and into life. Maurice, I keep saying Maurice. He's an awesome, Maurice Lemons is a great guy who works with all of us. And he says, if you are expecting someone at the bottom of the pile of humanity to accomplish something great, you have to lift them up to be able to enable them to do it. I think that's pretty amazing. That's what she does. She lifts them up.
Staying with your take it from Tara.
He always brings it back to me. I don't understand what that's all about. She's much more interesting.
She's going to get her share too. Is there any topics that are off limits for?
Have you ever watched my
show? Well, I have, but I
No.
Okay.
No, I do everything. I love doing profiles. I had the privilege of having an hour with Dawn G last week or 2 weeks ago, which was great fun. JP Davis, who's one of my favorite gaze, and he was wonderful. we had a great time. I went down to the Flying Axes and threw axes and talked to people about Tailspin Ale Fest, which is a big event that just took place. Had the opportunity to interview some folks who are putting on the big tribute to Dino tomorrow night, Chef Dean Corbett, and I'm going to be live casting over there tomorrow night. Everything, anything, just as you said, that I think is interesting, I think other people will find interesting too.
Good.
And then two of the things that are extremely close to my heart, my animals. So anything that has to do with animals. And, you know, the people who are the most vulnerable. And, you know, our homeless population is one of the things that I really focus on because, and I want to give my using my powers for good instead of evil is giving people like Tiny the platform, as you are doing right now, to get the word out that she's needing to get out. And that's what I consider myself to be a platform, a facilitator. Because it's not about me and it's not about her, it's about the people that we want to help, and you know, you're doing the same thing, so thank you.
Welcome. And thank you. What's next? Projects you got coming up?
Well, we are a constant, I mean, it's getting ready to rain a whole lot. It's going to be cold again, so we were going to definitely be in need of supplies. People can donate on our Facebook page, The Forgotten Louisville. We have an Amazon wish list on there. We're going to be in need of tents, tarps. Heat sources are huge right now.
Explain that real quick. You got the Amazon link or with your, so people, instead of having to drop stuff off, can actually go click the link, go to Amazon, purchase it, and it
ships right to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible when you think about it?
It is 2019, so.
Yeah. But it is an awesome way. I mean, you know, and when we come upon a season like we have had recently with the crazy amount of rain or the crazy amount of cold, you know, I use Facebook mostly as my platform. To put the word out there with what our needs are, and then the community responds, and it's an easy way to give back. Some people are not comfortable getting their hands dirty. I like to get my hands dirty. So some people are, you know, much better behind the scenes. So we've got people in the community that want to do something. So this gives them a way that they can give back to the community.
You know, one thing I love about you, and seriously, you and I are huggers.
Oh yes.
I love the way that Tiny embraces the people that she serves, and that's that you know,
figuratively
loving your
and
neighbor.
literally, right?
Very much so, embracing in so many ways. Walk for Compassion, March 30th at Cherokee Park. Maria Miles just said. Talk about that.
Yeah.
So Walk for Compassion is going to be a walk that's going to take place at Cherokee Park. It is a pet-friendly walk.
Yay!
We're going to partner with Fed with Faith, Up for Women and Children, My Dog Eats First, and The Forgotten Louisville. And there is an event to that on our Facebook page, or any of those Facebook pages. You can sign up to Walk for Compassion. Of course, it is to raise awareness in the community, and all the proceeds will be split between those organizations.
So 3 things I can think of right now that would be really helpful to emphasize is do what you suggested, come down to the Yellow Lot and serve on Wednesday nights. That's a great way to do it. Go to My Dog Eats First page and find out when they're doing the bagging night. Basically, it's the chance to come down and help put the dog food in the gallon bags so that people who are experiencing homelessness can carry it with them. Don't give somebody who doesn't have a house a 50-pound bag of dog food. Great idea. What are they going to do with it? And then Fed with Faith gives you a great opportunity on Sundays to go to Beargrass Christian Church, help prepare the meals that they then deliver all over the city. And you don't want to get your hands dirty? Well, get them dirty with food.
Right.
You know, go and prepare food and deliver those things. And then if you want to get into the trenches, if you want to be part of the boots on the ground, crawl with Tiny along the Ohio River bank, pulling people away from the flood, as she did and was videotaped doing, you know, on any number of occasions when the river has flooded, and helping them move their camps. And somebody else brought this up the other day. They just moved the concerts from River Road to the fairgrounds. Thank God. I have wanted that to happen for 3 years, but thank you so much, folks, for doing that. And here's one of the things that first came up, Maria Miles immediately put on my page. We're going to have to get moving on that camp at Preston Highway and Phillips Lane, because there are homeless living there that need to be relocated so that they're not affected by that concert. So you think about this, you know, these are the things people don't necessarily think about. But there's some component of society that's going to be affected by it's the butterfly effect by everything.
It's much like the Derby, you know,
Yep.
when it's time for the Derby, you will start
I'm
seeing
sure
the
it has
homeless
a
encampments
huge impact, right?
Absolutely.
start getting cleared out, and
That's one of the sad things, and they instituted a rule, as you know, I'm sure, that the city has to give notice before a homeless encampment is cleared, and that happened after, you know, some very sad things occurred when they were cleared, and people are losing their passports if they have them, their birth certificates, family photos, the ashes of their, you know, beloved. And, you know, we've had a couple of situations, too, where people are given sterno and propane, which are the ways that people who are experiencing homeless stay warm, and their tents burn.
right.
You know, and it's a terrible thing when a tent goes up in flames because they lose everything that they
Yep.
have.
Yeah.
So, you know, God, there's so many aspects. We could talk for hours about this.
Well,
Have her back.
and she's always got a spot here, but
Good.
you're not a talker, you're a doer. So,
Right.
So again, kudos to you
Thanks.
for all you do. I do have to ask you one more.
I'm a talker.
You being in the media,
I try to be a
saw
doer
this.
too, but
I woke up today. What was the deal with the llamas?
oh, this is tragic.
What was that
It's
about?
tragic. Well, there's a beautiful place called the Louisville Llama Farm located right next to the Louisville Zoo.
Yeah.
And on Monday morning, 5 llamas were slaughtered and 1 died of its injuries. And tonight, I understand 2 more were euthanized because of their injuries.
Not to end this on
And
a
they don't know,
downer.
but they don't know what did it. They don't know whether it
Yeah.
was coyotes,
Coyotes,
dogs, something else. They don't know. It's a complete mystery. It appears that the authorities have said it appears to be canine oriented, and that there are dog tracks and llama tracks in the mud. But these beautiful, gentle, 350 to 500 pound animals which guard sheep themselves. People, I mean,
right.
people who own sheep put llamas in the sheep pasture to guard the sheep because they're tough animals. And somehow something killed these llamas. And that's what's been going on. And I've been on that all day
Is
today.
it, I mean,
I'm going to do my show about it tomorrow.
Threat to people?
If
with this?
you damn
I mean,
right. I mean,
would
if something
think.
came in and
Yeah.
killed 8
Exactly.
llamas, wouldn't you think that it could do a tremendous amount of
yeah.
damage to small dogs or children?
Yeah.
People are being warned. Louisville Metro Animal Services has put out a warning that if you're in Strathmore Village or Shuffett Lane, any of that area around there, to keep your dogs secure. Don't let them
dear.
out unsupervised. Don't let your kids be out unsupervised until this mystery is solved. It's a very serious thing, and it's tragic for the family that has raised these beautiful, gentle creatures. You know, so it's not ending it on a downer. It's another part of life that we don't like to necessarily acknowledge exists. But until we find the answer to it, you know, you have to use common sense. Protect yourselves.
Any more questions for me?
If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be, Kevin Hale?
Christmas.
A Christmas. I love
Christmas
that.
tree, yeah.
I think we all might be a Christmas tree. Thank you for giving us the chance to put out our favorite, you know, topics on the table and spread the word.
You ladies have an open invitation to come back and hang out.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm curious, when you do yours, you don't have per se like Baxter's here is my home base.
No,
This is
I am
you're
live
yeah.
on location,
On location.
fully
Right.
mobile.
So you don't have a home turf or
I don't need one.
You don't need.
I am home.
Yeah.
I am home wherever I am.
That's what people ask, like, well, where is the office for the Forgotten Louisville? I'm like, my truck. Like, I mean,
It's
like,
right here.
We could all
It's right
survive
here.
out of the back of my truck.
Here, here.
Yeah, it's wherever she is.
Mhm.
You know, and I always say that, you know, take her from Tara is wherever Tara is, because I whip out this phone and I'll catch anything that's happening, and you know, Tiny will serve anyone that she sees. So, you know, you know what they used to say about wherever you go, there you are.
Absolutely.
So if you take your troubles with you, you can't escape them by
Yeah.
running away. You can't get the geographic cure. So something sad happens to you in Louisville, it's not going to solve the problem to go to Miami.
Right.
So wherever you go, there you are. And the same thing is, whatever is important to you goes with you wherever you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of what you do.
Thank you.
I'm a huge fan and envious of what you do with the media and stuff. So thanks so much for hanging out.
Well, thanks for having me again.
Good-
We're
good
huge
stuff.
fans of yours, too.
Yeah.
We're all in this together.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And my thing is that if there's anything I can do
Yeah.
to help facilitate, shove it down people's throat, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Keep
Yeah.
doing it.
yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Peace out.
Thanks everybody for watching this delightful bonus edition of Take It From Tara. And if you want to help, go to the Forgotten Louisville's Facebook page. Tiny will certainly tell you everything that you need to do. And you can also go to that Amazon wish list, because that's a huge way to help people who are experiencing homeless to get the things that they need. And please remember to not do the things that we've told you not to do. Very important. Thanks to, oh, there's Glenda. Glenda
Hey,
just tuned
Glenda.
in. Mickey Price and Roy Mullins and Judah Hellman and Pamela Tomes-Uselton, and so much gratefulness that all of you guys are here tonight. Thank you so much. And tomorrow, talking about llamas, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Rusty Gaylor, who is a veterinarian.
Dr. Gaylor.
Who's extraordinary, works with
Yes.
my doggies first. And Brigitte Brouillard with Second Chances Wildlife. She's going to be talking to us and several other people about this whole situation with us encroaching on wild animals' environments and the conflicts that are occurring, obviously, when we get into their worlds. You know, everybody says they're in ours, but really they were here first.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about it. Say goodbye, Tiny.
Bye.